Um, um, this is the May 27th Outreach and Advocacy Committee meeting. And just a heads up, I am, it's my dad's 81st birthday, but he's already asked me, am I done with the Wi-Fi? So, and I can hear him starting his morning ritual and there's music to the left of me. So, and I'm in his house. So if you hear any extraneous noise, I'm not being rude. It's just he's partying. So we have a brief agenda. We have our outreach, we have the draft resolution for sexual assault, the family engagement materials. Representative O'Leary, I've heard you have an interest in kind of debriefing about COVID in schools. And then I think our fourth item is, are there any other items that we want to consider? And at first, I also want to start by saying I appreciate this committee for allowing me to, one, apologize for the delay in getting the materials out that we were working through. And I also appreciate Representative Thompson's push to be like, yes, we can write the things, but we also need to convene around them. So that kind of gave me more fire to like get these items out. So we have the documents to kind of look through, but we also have bones to edit. That was kind of my vision related to the materials, but now we have some things we actually edit and talk about. All right, John Paul, can I ask for your assistance for the sexual assault resolution? I know you have the possibly sharing screen and editing as we move through it, or Alex, thank you. All right, you want me to share my screen? Or are you gonna share screen? I guess you should, so you can show the edits in real time.
Yeah, I can. Just give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
Cool.
Colleen, while y'all are doing that, I have a meeting at 11, a faculty meeting, so I have to leave for that.
Awesome.
Dr. Reed, just as clarification, do you want me to pull up the original, or do you want to pull up the one that I provided some edits?
The one that you provided the edits with the letterhead. Yep.
Is that the one with the stuff on the side?
Yes, it's the one with the stuff on the side.
Okay.
So I guess while John Paul is pulling this up, most folks are aware of what all happened, but I also talked to Representative Chang to get some background from his ward about like just more like not really what happened, but more like how can we, what are some suggestions that came out of the incident there? And it seemed like his feedback was some of the training related to Title IX, but also more, it wasn't the processes, but more the consistency in how they were followed. And then my kind of experience is more of the reporting piece, and then support for students was, and kind of gelled that together, the feedback. I talked to him on last Friday and put that kind of in there somewhere. So that's kind of also more background information. Did we lose John Paul?
Hall just said that his Wi-Fi died, so.
Oh,
He's having a lot of problems with that lately.
Well, we have it in front of us, right?
yeah, we can start walking through. And I have it too. I was just going to use his editing expertise, but I'll start sharing. Oh, wait, hopefully I can share. Oh, yes, I can. There's the green button.
Can I say something before we start editing?
Sure. While I pull it. Oh, I can't.
This, I think that we need to look at this through a lens of what the ask is for this resolution. Because I would think that I mean, this is a very important subject, but we need to give, we're not really in this resolution, we're not really asking for anybody to do anything. We're just talking about what has happened, and you know, since we're an advisory board, supposedly, you know,
Yeah.
what is our advice? What do we want them to do?
And I thought, I'll push with that one a little bit. I thought there were some acts towards the end of the document. I'm happy to add more. But of course, I start with the usual, like in how our resolutions are set up is kind of talking about like some stats. We were made aware of instances of misconduct. And And then we moved into the ask were local education agencies should consider methods for expediting preliminary communication. So understand that sometimes there's a delay because they're doing investigations. However, in my case, the word through the community spread really fast, and it would have been helpful just for preliminary communication of we are aware and we are investigating, would have been helpful versus it got to go to central office. They got to curate some wonderful PR rated, like PR ready communication. And it ended up being a delay between when it happened on March 15th through the actual communication March 22nd. There was already like rapid, like, so just kind of a cursory, we are aware, would have settled a lot of nerves for my community. The other ask came from Representative Chang, where making sure relevant employees of LEAs receive regular training on related topics, including Title IX and mandated reporter requirements. The third one was, what is it? The frontline supports in our community, including council member offices, community organizations, and individuals who may interface with children and families. Be aware, or raising awareness about the right protocols or the correct protocols for reporting concerns, including reporting to Child and Family Services, MPD, and then notifying appropriate school staff. That one was thrown in there for this case, and I had a previous case where ANC commissioner reached out to me for an alleged someone, like, I think grabbed a child's arm or something like that. And or grabbed a child. And I was like, whoa, that's a missed opportunity. You're reporting it to me via email, but it should be going through the proper channels. So I think sometimes families call who they know, but we as community folks, especially leaders, make sure that we're not holding up any processes by trying to figure out, like, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Do I call who? And then the last piece, or actually two more pieces, innovations related to anonymous reporting, like if there's technology for students in schools to be able to say, I saw something, and this is actually more also regular, just safety in general. I saw something, that anonymous reporting piece through like either text or a website or something like that. And then the last piece is wraparound services, especially for victims. In one of my cases, like the child really wanted to be able to switch schools quickly. And then just all the other things I can imagine come with social emotional supports in the instance that you feel like you were violated in that nature. So that's towards the end. Okay.
Yeah, so I read it, and then I have
I'm
yes.
sorry, or Representative Thompson, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Representative O'Leary, I think you're the host of the meeting when John Paul dropped. Would you be able to admit him as the host?
Oh.
This is going to test
Sure.
all of us right now.
Just tell me what to do. I don't.
Very
So if you
kind
go to-
of you, Representative.
If you go to
O'Leary.
participants at the bottom, Fraser.
I'm headed that way. How did I get to be the host? But that's fine.
Probably because you joined first.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
What do I
And
do
then-
now?
So then you'll see on the right
Oh,
side, you'll
host
see
me, right?
panelists and attendees. If you click on attendees,
Uh-huh,
you'll see 3 people listed,
right,
2 of which say DC State Board of Education.
right.
Can you, I think if you click on one of them, there should be a function that says promote to panelists.
Oh, my goodness.
Did that work?
It said failed to change role to panelist.
Maybe try the other one then.
Yep. I think that worked. Nope. Said failed to change role to panelist. Want me to do the other attendees?
Yeah, try the first one again.
Okay. Nope.
Okay, well, let me see. It's fine. John Paul will just listen in. I do have a copy of the resolution that I could share, but I actually don't think I have screen sharing privileges.
And I can't either.
Fraser, let's try something else actually.
Okay.
Can you go back to participants
right?
And if you go to the panelists,
Uh-huh.
if you see my name and it should say more, like a blue box with a more and a down arrow.
Right.
Is there a button that says promote to host or make host?
Make host.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me see if I can figure this out. But in the
You're the
interim,
host now.
okay, perfect. In the interim, I will let me share the resolution if I have it, or I had it somewhere.
So Fraser, I know you're saying ask after what I rattled off, were there any, do you think we should lean in harder on something? Or you
I really think, see what your explanation right now was talking about a specific incident, which I didn't know about.
Mhm.
All right. I mean, I know that when we talk, y'all remember when we were talking about being mandated reporters,
Mhm.
all right? And this is the same kind of thing. When I had found out that one of my students came to me a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago, and told me that her uncle had sexually assaulted her. And I guess we at that time, I don't even know if we had mandated reporting. All right. That's how long ago it was. But I went to my principal and I was wary about going because she had told me in confidence, if that makes any sense. All right. But I went to my principal and he told me, you got to report this. This is because you can lose your job. Right. So I think we need to be really specific about because when it talks about sexual violence at schools, all right, that's like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a student being raped by another student? Are we talking about sexually assaulting someone just by verbally or physically? It could student teacher, teacher student. We had an incident at Cardozo where a custodian was relieved because he had an affair with a student. All right. So I just I think we need to be specific about what the ask is. All of the things that are in here are very important, but we need to make sure that what we're asking for is something that the system is either not acting on and needs to act on, or I think what I was getting from what you were saying, Carlene, is that it needs to be amplified so that we know what everyone's doing. Because just to go, because we're in this horrible situation, which we haven't been in as a board with just a school shooter coming in and just devastating an entire country kind of thing. But there have to be ways in which there are very specific acts that the system has to do immediately. When you were talking about the immediacy of it, I think you said from the 15th to the 22nd, that's a whole week before there was any kind of action on it. People need to know, though, people down in Texas, the teachers were doing what they were supposed to do. The kids were doing what they were supposed to do in this horrible situation. But just imagine being a parent, and this has really affected me with my 5 children in elementary schools at certain times in their lives, in my life too, and I don't know where my child is, and there's blood all over the place. What are the protocols? We need to have I think the ask is we want specific protocols that are citywide protocols that OSSI and DCPS and the DC charter schools, everybody has the same protocol. Is that what I'm hearing our ask is?
I think I see Representative Gasoy's hands up, and I'm going to get to her. Yes, Representative Thompson.
Well, I kind of waited till we got the whole situation resolved. And it actually was in response to Representative O'Leary's comment. So I I have similar thoughts about this resolution. I think for the following reasons. So like I think I shared with you all in the working session that I have been a mandated reporter before for DCPS. I've had that training. I've run out of school programs. I've also run home visiting programs. I've actually had the unfortunate experience, and in some ways fortunate because it creates opportunities to address things that families are going to, of actually referring people to CFSA. I come from, my comments are going to come from that place. I think it's really important to Representative O'Leary's point that we are specific. And I think we have probably some learning to do around like what's already in place, and the difference between when protocols weren't followed versus when we need new protocols. I suspect that this notification issue, there is protocol around that. I don't know exactly what it is. I would want to know if it's that the protocol was not followed and like a letter should have gone out in 24 hours. I'm just making it up. Or if there is no protocol around communication. And I would want our resolution to reflect that. I think that Serena is a valuable resource and we should lean on her because I know I've referred all kinds of sensitive issues to her, and she's done a great job of not just responding, like, of course, like with discretion in some cases, but educating the families on their rights and their resources, and educating us as members when we have these different interactions. You know, like you follow up with Serena, you say, hey, what happened with this? How did it happen? And Dan, yes, thank you. I think they're resources that can absolutely make this stronger. I also agree with Representative O'Leary that everything raised is important. I'm looking forward, and given much of this was crafted in response to a specific incident, I'm also looking forward to seeing, sorry,
multiple incidents.
specific incidents recently. I want to hear from the students, our student advisory committee. I think their feedback has been some of the most valuable because they are actually experiencing, and I think it might identify other places where, again, there might either be insufficient protocols are routinely not being followed, or, you know, there's something that other things that need to change. And so I think I'm saying all that to say, in summary, talking to Serena is probably really good for us in the next step. Talking to the student advisory committee and getting their feedback is probably really important for us in the next step. I look forward to then integrating that feedback in the solution in this resolution in a way that more like builds on the clarity as far as what are the things that haven't been followed and are in place, and what are the things where we just—
Yeah, and Representative Thompson, I thought you spoke with Serena because when initially had, I'll go to Representative Gasoy. I just want to respond to this piece.
I spoke with Serena about the request.
We're initially going to go with mandated reporter training, and then we're saying that we were kind of overstepping what was in our purview, and not everyone was meant to be a mandated reporter, because I was initially going with the route of we needed to expand the definition.
Yes, and so I want to be very clear, because I don't want to misrepresent what Serena said back to us. So I went to Serena with the request to find out if we could, and John Paul, and we check with counsel, like our, we have general counsel backup around if we could mandate that the board go to mandated reporter training. And so we had that conversation. We brought it back to the board. We cannot change the definition of the board being mandated reporters. We just can't do it. We can, however, and we did strongly recommend, which is within our power as leadership, that all of the board members take the training. We at no point, because this resolution didn't exist, go to Serena and have a conversation about this resolution. I'm actually recommending that maybe we invite Serena to one of the maybe one of the committee meetings or something, because I think it's an opportunity to lean on her expertise even further. Because she had that detailed recommendation and she walked us through why and all the things, it makes me even more confident that we should take this back to her and lean on her experience. So yes, a conversation was had based on the previous request, and now I'm saying a conversation needs to be had based on this request.
Okay, Representative Gassoy.
Thank you. I guess well, one thing that stands out to me is it's very focused on responding, which maybe that's what we want, but I was wondering if maybe we want to also include something about preventative training, how to, and this would require research and conversation maybe with Serena and Dan about what services are available, what that would look like. But I would suggest maybe adding something about providing all staff in schools with training, because I will say, in my experience working in schools, it is complicated. And it's, kind of the story that you told, Fraser, about, when a student comes to you and tells you, something in confidence, all of a sudden you are put in this position where there is no good solution. That happens over and over again with the youngest children. This has happened to me with, not me personally, but in my school with a 5-year-old, where there was a decision that had to be made where there were no really good, clear paths to take where nobody would get hurt. So I'm just saying it's super complicated.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so for that piece about, and I think, did Alex highlight it, where John Paul, so I too have worked in a school between and from actually schools in all age ranges, across sectors. And the protocol is supposed to be the same in regards to responding. I think it's, and also based on like what Representative Chang was saying, is it's the consistency and how that's how these instances are processed. But the protocol is you contact CFSA, MPD is notified, and then you contact the school, whoever the representative, or it's usually the principal or whoever the designated reporter or person is in the school to report that. With that feedback, the paragraph, or I guess section that's highlighted, be it further resolved, the local education agency should consider methods for, where's the one about training? Oh, the one underneath it, 28 and 29. Be it further resolved, the relevant employees of LEAs receive regular training on related topics, including Title IX and mandated reporting requirements. And school level, you have to do this training once a year. Even if you've been there, that's your first year, 10 years, you have to renew every year, once a year. So that, and then the Title IX component is more about the specific like training for, there's a Title IX point of contact, but everyone who interfaces with children gets or should get the mandated reporter training, because you are a mandated reporter. And a part of that training is, it's uncomfortable if you are notified by a child that this happened, but you have to go through the steps of, thank you for sharing that with me. I have to report, but we're going to support you through this. So I wanted to kind of frame that information there. Is there any in that 28 and 29, it sounds like also this is the area that we can get Serena and other folks to chime in with their research. But based on this committee, do folks have any recommendations on what could be added? Does that statement need to be tweaked?
Yeah, I see other hands, and I just want to clarify. So are you saying that 28 and 29 is responding to what I was saying? Maybe we want something that is preventative versus just responding. I mean, this may be a resolution about responding, which is fine. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm open to any and everything, because I mean, this is just bones for the committee wanted to do or agree that it was okay to do it, move forward with doing a resolution. I kind of just drafted it based on the incidents I'm aware of, actually like 3 from my school, another school, and then another one. So
Yeah.
this is kind of based on like what the feedback of what we saw, regardless of who was it, staff, student, whatever. We saw the themes of these were some of the things that emerged.
Yeah, I think if
So
28, 29 is
it was a hybrid about the training piece kind of too.
yeah.
But
I think it could be more clear. And I guess all I'm saying is I hear you, like you need to report and that's the procedure. But people don't because they feel conflicted. And I think that's the kind of training I'm wondering, I wish I had had. I guess that's what I'm reflecting on, you know, and I'm wondering if that exists. I don't know if it
in the
belongs
mandated
this.
reporter training.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm maybe bringing something into this that doesn't belong in this resolution and is sort of a more complicated thing, just putting it out there as part of this discussion. So again, I think I agree that a conversation with Serena, Dan, and maybe other, you know, experts in this field, maybe this is a panel. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, I think Representative O'Leary, then Representative Thompson.
Why is Title IX in line 29?
That came from Representative Chang's situation in the, what was it? The recommendations that came out of that situation where it was a staff member to student.
What does that have to do with Title IX?
I believe Title IX is related to schools having to report and collecting data around that, but I mean, we can.
I mean, I when I think of Title IX, I'm thinking about, I'm thinking through sports, where everybody's treated the same, where the girls' teams and the boys' teams. I don't know about. I'm just ignorant about what Title IX has to do with.
Oh, there is a sexual component to Title IX, but we can get more. I think, Alex, if you can add like a bullet there or a note to get more specific, but I do want clarity on if it's not just colleges, but I remember.
No, I wasn't thinking about colleges. I was thinking about being a girls' basketball coach. The girls weren't treated equally as for funds and things like that. But I just don't, but I guess this goes back to what I was gonna ask. When Ebony Rose was talking about getting more information, all right, I think that we need to have a panel, but we need to have somebody come and talk to us at our next committee meeting with this kind of information, Serena, Dan, whoever it is, the Student Advocacy Committee is a perfect example for that too. But I think we need to have a lot more information before we even have a resolution. I don't think that the immediacy of getting this out
is
as important as having information about what it is. I'm sorry, I don't know who was talking.
You cut out. Carlene, you cut out when you, I think I heard Representative O'Leary wrapping up about the panel. And I think you were trying to ask him a question, but it was not clear.
Yes, my dad's phone rang, and which subsequently messed up the internet. I was saying
just because it's his 81st birthday, Carlene.
I know I need to hurry up and get off, so because I'm only going to get more calls. But no, I was just saying. Okay, so it sounds like folks are interested in a panel, but I was also interested in like, what additional information are we seeking from this panel? Outside,
we don't have any. We don't have any information.
We do have information.
No, but the information,
we have it. I mean, I guess in my head, I'm like, we have information of there have been, I mean, just this year alone, documentation of instances of sexual assault in schools. Now, are we saying the panel needs to talk about, like, when I ask like what kind of panel are we looking for, like we need
what
more
has been
done? protocol
What has been
or
done about it?
this is that's what I'm trying to, I think that's what, like, that's why we have outreach and advocacy committee. We are trying to, like, well, in my situation, I know that the protocols in the school have been more secure, related to security in schools. I'm not sure about what, but I'm like, this is the element of what's being done. So I think it's kind of trying to be proactive related to what's happening in our schools, because clearly we're between, like, just between March and now, can rattle off several instances.
I guess what I'm saying, if you look at line 11, whereas recently the DC State Board of Education has been made aware of multiple sexual assault allegations at schools in their wards. I don't know anything about that.
And that's concerning that you don't, Representative O'Leary. Like, I
But
don't, because it became on our work plan for this reason, because I raised it. There's been, like, again, this, like, I'm kind of shocked that this, like, people haven't heard about this being an issue.
Okay, but see,
I
you
don't-
know about it.
Sorry.
You're coming from information. I didn't know about what happened. I don't know what school you're talking about right now. I don't, how do I know about that?
I've shared it multiple times at our working sessions, but Representative Thompson, yes.
So I have the following thoughts. I do, yes, like you have raised it as an issue. I'm pretty sure everybody on the board is not on equal footing as far as familiarity with the incidents. I think that's safe to say. I also think it's safe to say that, yes, Representative Reed, you raised that we need to do something. I know everybody's familiar with the mandated reporter request. I do think I raised my hand when Representative Gassoy was speaking, because I think that's actually a really good point around, like, what does it look like to be proactive in reduction of incidences? I don't have at this moment in time, like, what I would want to see around that in there, but I think that's one of the things that we can seek some guidance on. And I would hope to see included here. I think it's important. I also know that while the mandated reporter training is clear as far as who is the mandated reporter and what their responsibilities are, it does not do a great job of the, I guess, the, what is it, support or the sensitivities as far as what are adults of this. Mandated reporters are human. And what I hear Representative Gassoy and Representative O'Leary raising is people might know the protocols and have had the training, and they still have some hesitancy, and there needs to be some support around that to make sure that people are following the protocol, like to give them the supports that they need to better follow the protocol. Because I would hate for us to not, for things to not be reported that should be reported because adults are uncomfortable.
Gotcha.
And so if that's something,
is there a recommendation specific, like, around that? So for instance, at the end,
I don't think there's anything.
Anonymous.
I don't think there's anything in this resolution that addresses that. I also know that it's not something that's covered in the mandated reporter training. I also don't know if there's something that exists. And that's one of the reasons I was like, these are some questions, and maybe it would be helpful for us to identify, like, some of the questions, some of the challenges, some of the things that have come up here to ask. To your question, which I think you were asking to Representative O'Leary around, like, who could or should participate in this panel, like, and maybe it's not a panel, I don't know, but, or who we should at least get feedback from. It's definitely Dan, it's definitely Serena. We definitely should follow up possibly with the DCPS Title IX office to understand how this goes into place. And we should probably also be following up with DME. That's how we found out some of the things around the, like, I see here, there was a request around, like, different stats, like some of the things that aren't reported and aren't collected. So, like, there's I know I saw in John Paul's feedback, and this came up before, was like, Yeah, we actually don't. There are certain data that we don't collect. Like it's only adult to student violence that's tracked. It's not other things. So I think having a moment to like, now that I appreciate us being able to respond and have this conversation, because I think good points were brought up. I think there's some things to flesh out. I do think it's important, and it helps me at least process like where are some of the points that we can work on together to help move this forward.
Thank you for that. So it sounds like, okay, so it sounds like we still have a lot of questions about what's in here. I wonder, and where are we with time? Oh, we're pushing it because Representative earlier has to leave at 11. Okay. I was gonna say like maybe we can, but that's gonna take too much time. Okay, so it sounds like probably in the constraints of time, next steps would be to consult with Dan and Serena and the DME. And somebody else, DCPS Title IX, to see if they're actually, but I'm going off of, okay.
Students, don't forget
and-
students.
Yes, so the stack is going to weigh in on this because they have to weigh in on all resolutions. But it also sounds like not just them weighing on the resolution, but being a part of a panel or yes. Is that like how do I'm listening.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, I saw your, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, Representative O'Leary.
Because I'm not trying to not do this. I want everyone to understand that. I think this is a great push for us, right? I would rather have a roundtable discussion on this than to have a panel.
Gotcha.
Because we're talking about at least 8 people or maybe 10 people in a room. Unless we do a roundtable on Zoom, which would be
Is
fine.
that like a special session, Representative?
I don't know, but I think we need to, it's the urgency of it. I think we need to, because I mean, the way things work, something needs to be in place in August at the beginning of school. Right, school's over now as far as a whole lot of people are concerned. You know, graduations are like 3 weeks after classes are over almost. But I think that having a special meeting on Zoom for this with the players that you mentioned,
Okay.
if we come out of that with a great, it doesn't have to be a 5-page resolution. It just needs to be a very succinct ask with information. And I think that with the having everyone in the same room talking about the same topic, that this would be very, very valuable.
Gotcha. Okay, so we can try to get that. I was trying to push for June if we can get a vote for the resolution, because I know our January, I'm sorry, not January, I'm not going back to January. Our July session is going to be action packed between attendance and ESSA. So,
Right.
so it might end up being a September thing, depending on how we can get everyone's schedules coordinated. That's kind of why I was like, what can we get through? But I mean, I'm also in agreement, and I hear you all where you're saying like, let's get the quality piece together versus pushing. So I'm very much open to that. I'm also very passionate about the issue, and I also realize about like just the havoc wrecked through the community based on the most recent incident. So it sounds like a special meeting with Dan, Serena, DME, DCPS Title IX to see if that's a thing. DCPS is probably in general, maybe even DME could possibly cover PCSB, because we also want to make sure charters have something similar. We might want to focus, I don't know, students all together. Representative Thompson, I saw your hand. Or I'm probably going out of order. Go ahead.
I think Representative Soy was next.
Okay.
I think she got in there before me.
Yeah,
Okay.
just super quick. I think I just wanted to clarify, I guess, now that we're thinking in terms of a roundtable, that maybe something that would be worthwhile is having at least some folks explicitly bringing up some of the complications to reporting, why they might not report. So then maybe this leads to recommendations for how to address that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I get it now, like why sometimes these things go. I think it's not necessarily what this addresses, which is there should be better channels of communication when something happens, you know, and I hear you. I think that when the school is able to, or the appropriate agencies say, you know, communicate quickly and effectively, that's super important and that can happen. But I think the deeper issue is, why do these incidents sometimes go unreported, or probably pretty often, on all levels, from the victim, from the person who's been told by the victim? And I don't know how much we'll be able to get into that publicly, but it may be worth a try. It just seems like getting a little deeper than this gets. And maybe that's an important place to go for us. It would be great if we could make recommendations for changes that would make it more likely that adults would feel more clarity around what they can and should do in various situations. So that was it. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go to Representative Thompson, and then we're gonna wrap the topic because I'm hoping we can eke in our family engagement materials before 11. Representative Thompson.
Yeah, I have two thoughts. So one is one of the reasons I like the idea of a round table is because I think it'll give us the opportunity to identify things that can be done immediately or in the short term versus things that might take a little bit longer in response to like being moving as quickly as we can, because some things might be able to happen immediately, or some things might be just improving practice or whatever it is. I do, and I don't know the answer to which things those are now. I wonder if, and so I'm curious since it's, as far as the June working session, do we see us getting some feedback on the resolution as it is and saying like, hey, let us know. So in preparation for the roundtable, do we want to share with people? Like, I'm thinking about, just like we had this conversation and started to bring ourselves along. What does it look like to bring the rest of the members along? Yeah.
So my initial thing, I think coming into this meeting, before hearing your concerns about it, my initial timeline was thinking beat all the stuff that's going to happen in July, because I know our July meeting, and trying to prevent that slide into September. But then, so initially I was like, okay, as a committee, we're going to edit this. And then it's going to be on our working session for the full board, or we're going to email it out to the full board, our working session, get full board feedback, send it to the SAC for their feedback, and then hopefully for a vote in June, the June 15th public meeting. That timeline blew up. Okay, fine. So I think that's a great question of, well, is it just an opportunity for board members to give a feedback? Wait, what do we have, Representative Thompson, going on the working session? Can you give us a prequel of, like, is it going to be busy, or?
Well, our working sessions have been longer, and they are in person. So of course we're going to continue to get updates. Here's what I know, right? Like, and we have a leadership meeting later today, and there will of course be more feedback, but of course we'll get updates as far as the latest and greatest on it's not the STAR framework by itself, but you know what I mean, ESSA amendments. Of course, we're moving this attendance thing along, so we'll have some more conversation about attendance. we also still have all of the committee reports. So I guess I'm wondering if this should be like included, like if this should be our update to the committee, like if it should focus on some of this, like, so there's different ways to handle it.
And should the framing be, here is a draft, give us your thoughts, and we're also having a round table?
I don't think we should do that
What
with
you
a
think?
draft.
Don't even introduce it.
Yeah, just talk about what we talked about today. And that the next step is a roundtable, which will create the draft, and hopefully, and that doesn't mean we can't vote on it in July. That doesn't leave it out completely. You understand what I mean? I'm not
I
trying
do
to.
want members to lay eyes on it, or have an opportunity to lay eyes on it, so that they can give the feedback like you all are giving of, because I know some people aren't gonna make the roundtable, but like be able to look at it like, yeah, that's not addressing what I'm hearing from my community's needs, or I'm seeing some alignment with what I'm experiencing, or here's another idea that we need to add to it. So I do want full
I
board
hear
to have an
that.
opportunity to look at it at some point.
Yeah, I hear that. I also think it's really important to, because we're all representatives, right? And we all have our community stuff. And maybe, and I don't know if this is the way we want to use our last 8 minutes. And maybe we can figure out some of this offline, because we didn't get to any of the other agenda items. But I'm just thinking about, like, in the past, and you brought this up, Representative Reed, sometimes like we have a really robust discussion and then we send something out in writing and that context isn't there for like how we got there and where we are. And then so the feedback isn't quite in the same place. And so I don't know the answer, but I think I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Representative O'Leary is saying, and they're the right questions to, like, how do we bring the rest of the board along? How do we get good feedback? How do we do it in a way that is an efficient timeline for getting something passed, right?
Yes. So what, I'm going to defer to you. What do you suggest how that we should do for a working session? And I see Representative O'Leary doing like this.
Let me bring it up at the we have a leadership meeting literally, I think, at 12.
Okay.
I have back-to-back meetings, so I have that and I have the board governance today. Let us talk about that, and then I'll shoot an email to you all, and then you all can, and then we can be in conversation about it.
Cool. Representative O'Leary.
I was just thinking that sometimes we do it with the educator practice committee, is during our meeting, because that's what the report is on when we give it to the business meeting, we discussed and we came out of it and list the things that were discussed so that the members of the board can look at the things that were discussed. It doesn't have to be the resolution, just the things that we discussed today, and decided that our next step, we wanted to have a roundtable discussion on this, and hopefully we can get feedback from everybody on the board, and then we can discuss it at the public meeting or the next business meeting in July, and come up with something for the public meeting where we could vote on for the resolution. Does that make sense? I think it's doable. It's just that I think just talking about what we talked about today will give everybody a chance to either not subtract, add things to it, and then we can, I can work on editing it. There are only a couple of things I'm good at, and editing is good. I'm good at it, right? But I think that would work. I know I'm talking my way right back to my next meeting, but
You got 6 minutes. Representative Thompson.
I muted myself and then the screens, it's a mess. I think I think a roundtable could be really powerful if we do it right. And I have a suspicion that it also will identify other steps we need to take beyond the resolution. And so I feel pretty confident that we will, like, the train is moving, and it will move in a way that gets us possibly several outcomes. Because one of the things that I've said is and continues to be really important to me is like when we raise things for our communities, because I again appreciate it being raised. It's like, how do we raise it in a way that actually requires someone to respond and do
Right.
something about it? And so I think that there's a lot of, it's not just potential, but there's a path to make some improvements here. And there's a couple of options around that. We do have, and yeah, so let's talk about what that looks like as far as the working session. I mean, it could be part of the report out, what we share in the report out. It could be a session. I mean, it could be a piece of the working session, an agenda item around this particular topic. Again, we have that flexibility.
Okay. I'll look for your email once you get into your back-to-back sessions, the board governance one, about the thoughts from, not board governance, wrong one, leadership. One of those. You said you'll give me guidance. You'll give us guidance about what would be best for the working session. In the meantime, I think if we can try to schedule a roundtable. Alex, you taking good notes? Roundtable in maybe within 2 weeks. I'd be pushing it, but we'll somewhere 2-3 weeks, not too long. And then work on finalizing based on feedback, plus any extra, like any new steps that might emerge that are beyond the resolution. Did I summarize that?
That's great.
Great. Well, the good news is we'll have plenty of content for our family and for our next meeting. Because the reason why I was like, do we need to have a meeting? It's because we needed materials to have a meeting for. So now we have plenty of materials. So I'm going to push the family engagement materials to the June Advocacy and Outreach Committee meeting for us to do something similar. Look through what does it need to be with, but also because Representative O'Leary said the last time, we want to be able to like launch in September.
I'm
And
going.
I'll you all dates.
All right, Representative O'Leary, the one thing I would ask with your last 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, I don't know, the COVID in school. So I don't know if you wanted to give a quick voiceover and then jump off.
I've been hearing from all my schools that the numbers are going up, and there's no conversation to the public about how the numbers are going up.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know that I'm almost 100% sure that I got COVID at a retired teachers meeting last week, and I had my mask on and everything, and there were because we got a notice that somebody was tested positive and it wasn't me, and the principals are telling me that the numbers are going up in the high schools and the middle schools and the elementary schools. That's all. And I really do have to go. Thank you all for putting up with me. I thought it was a great meeting, Carlene. I've had a lot of great meetings.
Good pushes on all sides. I appreciate you all for being able to have really, a tough conversation, but also make sure we gotten us to like what is something that works for everybody on the board. I know he had to jump. I do want to, because we got 5, I want to hold y'all for like 5 minutes. Based on what Representative O'Leary said, is there any, what do we want any follow-up or any ideas related to? Hi, John Paul.
I also wanted to just update this committee, since we're talking about the COVID things, that the COVID protocols for DC government have also now changed. And so we are now not required to report individual cases of COVID. We are only reporting cases of if there are more 10 or more employees within 5 days. That's the only time that we would be reporting to DC Health that there has been an sort of outbreak in our offices. So I don't know if DCPS and schools are following that same guidance. I would imagine they probably are. And I think that's one of the other things too that may be changing the way that the reporting is being done in terms of COVID cases in schools. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was up to date on that new guidance that is coming out from DC Health.
No, that's super. Oh, sorry. That's super helpful. So when Representative O'Leary asked me if I was seeing like elevated numbers in my schools, I told him I had just gotten a few calls from parents about actually, thank you for raising that, John Paul, the reporting and the protocols. And so the questions I've gotten from parents when they've gotten notices are more like, all right, at what point does everything shut down? Or how do I know like which bucket my kid falls in? And since it's not the same for everybody, so like, let's say, let's just use Kimba if he was a real boy. If Kimba was a real boy and Kimba is fully vaccinated, when he can return is different than somebody who's not vaccinated. Or depending on who was in close contact and all the different things, is tiered in a different way. That's actually really complicated sometimes for parents to see like, what does this mean, not just for my child, but like understanding what's happening at the school or even like my child's class. I've heard from middle school parents in particular that sometimes with the notifications, they're like, okay, well, I told you that my kid is vaccinated, but you're telling me they have to sit out for 10 days, which is different than what the letter says. And so there's a certain amount of confusion that is being created about just like everything from attendance to reporting to like just what is the protocol altogether. And I don't know if other people are hearing from families that they, even when being notified about the cases, they are also confused on what does this mean for my kid and when should they show up.
It's, for me, it's weird. Right now, I have not received, I've seen people, the uptick on social media, like people, but I have not yet received any calls from family. Bullying is a big one right now. Those are my calls. But nothing yet from parents related to COVID. So that's
Same.
really for you too. I don't know.
Me too. And I will just say on a personal note, my child went the whole year without getting it until now. So she has a nurse home right now. And I noticed that the school used to report every week, like how many cases, everything. Now they don't. So there has definitely been a change. Like now they just notify you if your child has it or had a close contact. So the broad like overview seems to not be required anymore.
I'm sorry that happened.
She's all right.
She's feeling good.
She feels great. It's weird. It's like she's just totally herself and normal. I'm just, I'm like, that's the other weird thing about COVID. Like I might get it, I might not, so far so good.
Yeah. My coworker's son who's in private school in Ward 6 is positive, but no symptoms. So John Paul, saw you kind of I thought you were trying to signal.
I was just gonna reiterate that on the state board's calls as well as emails that we're getting, we are seeing a lot of calls related to bullying and that type of behavior, and I'm pretty sure that that's the same as well for Dan and Serena, and we have not received a whole lot of calls related to COVID exposures or reporting or those types of things. But I do wonder. I mean, I think one of the things that has been I don't know about good, but it has happened, is that there is now, the DC COVID website is set up to receive some of those things. And so the complaints may be going to the Department of Health rather than us for those types of things. But I don't know. And like I said earlier, I don't know if there has been any additional changes to the COVID protocols at schools based on the new guidance from CDC and from Department of Health and OSSI. So I think that would be an interesting question that we can certainly pose to whoever is the right people, OSSI or whatever.
So any recommendations related to what we just discussed about the COVID piece and then the bullying piece? Ideas about, is it just we know now? Ask the board. Yep, Representative Thompson.
I mean, I think this is a place where and maybe it's just an ask to OSSI to update it. Like we need to know what, if the protocols have changed, what they've changed to. I think that's the starting place, right? Like I think part of the confusion is people are like, all right, I'm not seeing data. I don't know. Like, so that's one level. And they don't know if it's just that somebody just stopped doing their job or if the rules have changed. So like, that's one level. The other is just like, because, and this might not be necessarily true in August or September, but we will still have a lot of students who are in schools over the summer because of the expanded offerings due to, pandemic related academics. So I think we that's just the basic first step. But the second is like, once we see what the reporting and the changes are, we might need to get we can then dig in and say, all right, like, here are the places we know parents might be confused. Here are the places we might have some thoughts around. Here are the whatever. But I think we just need to know what's real right now, because it seems to have shifted.
Gotcha. So updating from Aussie about what's changed and keeping us abreast. And then for bullying and I also see in the chat, and I also kind of agree, because I was talking to my council members, director of community engagement this morning, and she mentioned, we were almost like, is it bullying, or it's almost like, and I'm bad at titles and definitions for things, or almost just like violence. Because I mean, it's been a range of like throwing a chair at someone, I don't know, is probably a component of bullying, but it's just like really significant incidences of behavior concerns. And we were just kind of talking through that with what she was experiencing with her grandson, with another parent that we have in a school. And we're like, whoa. So, and that's really the call that probably right now I get the most of. It's, I'm bullying and I'm ready to switch schools. So it's almost like a transition piece too. So any ideas about that piece? It also could be opportunity with Dan and Serena as well.
I feel like the student advisory committee, they phrase this in some instances. I would be curious to hear from them, like what they're seeing and experiencing in schools, and get some more feedback there. I don't know. I do wonder what appropriate responses are, because I do think it is larger than bullying. I don't know what the right language is, like you, Representative Reed. But I think some of it, like I've heard from, teachers, parents, everybody else, some of it is just like all the things that people are dealing with and continue to deal with just the trauma of living through the pandemic. And how are we as humans, like, just adjusting to that. And so I worry about things that categorize it like just as like discipline issues, because I do think it's larger than that. But I do wonder if maybe the student advisory committee is a place to start and getting some feedback as far as the what is the frame, like what.
Yeah, I'm planning, okay, so I know they meet on the 13th, and I'm gonna see if between both the sexual assault, just to hear, I mean, we're doing our roundtable too, but then also both topics of this, kind of hearing from them about sexual assault, as well as the piece about bullying / behavior trauma in students that is warranting certain behavior concerns. And that's June 13th, I think 6. So, okay. That's then, if anything else? Because I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just typing here, but I'll just say it, which is, I think that there has been broad acknowledgement that we need to focus more intensively on trauma and mental health and SEL. I'll put that in there too. And it just hasn't, from what I've been hearing from school staff and educators, it has not been the case. It hasn't been happening. So there's lip service basically to it. There's acknowledgement it's needed, but everything else that's happening in schools does not support that, or hasn't so far. I mean, I know there's now going to be more money put towards mental health, but I'm just wondering, sometimes the funding doesn't end up addressing the issue because of other factors, you know, in schools, making it so that they can't, you know, they can't actually implement the programming or partners or whatever it is they were going to do. So I think that is something that I have been hearing, is just that, you know, there's an uptick in extreme behavior, and at the same time, educators have not been able to address, you know, the proactively or even responsively the needs of their students. So I think that's a real issue. I'm not sure what our response should be, but just want to call that out.
Thank you for that. That SEL component of not just saying that we have it, but making sure that there's time and space actually for implementing it. Good stuff. All right, we got a lot of homework. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for really frank discussions, being able to lean in and dig into the core issues related to the resolution. And I guess next steps, I'm going to need help, John Paul and Alex, with let's schedule in that panel within the next 2 to 3 weeks. With scheduling time, I'm planning to attend this, getting on the SACS calendar, asking them if they want us, but with the ask of hearing from them related to sexual assault and then the bullying, violence issue. Am I missing anything? And then Representative Thompson's going to let us know how to approach this at the working session for Wednesday. I covered all the steps. Cool. Thank you all, and see you next time. Enjoy your weekend.